Hi, I'm Cindy Lagodakis, your Clausen Memorial Museum Director. All around the world at this time of year, people are gathering to celebrate in accordance with their religious, spiritual, and cultural identities. This year, we're celebrating an old museum tradition in a new way. And while we aren't gathering in the same physical space, we can still share in community virtually and expand our celebration beyond the museum's four walls. So sit back, grab a cookie or two and a cup of your favorite holiday cheer, and join us in this year's video celebration of the season.
My name is Kathy Cronland, and I have a book to share with you today that my grandmother compiled through the early years of the 20th century. At that time, it was really common for magazines and newspapers to publish the odd poems, some written by readers, some just submitted. And my grandmother cut them out and pasted them page after page in this old book. And this one is one from 1907, The Night Before Christmas, 1907, by Carl Werner. I must say, this was during the era of Theodore Roosevelt, and he was known for busting the trusts and for teddy bears. So you will hear about those in this poem. By Carl Werner. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the flat not a creature was stirring, not even the cat. Above the steam heater the stockings were placed, in hopes that by Santa they soon would be graced. The children were snug in their wee folding bed, while visions of teddy bears danced through their heads. And I, in pajamas, likewise in a grouch, had gone to my patent convertible couch. When out on the asphalt there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. A mantle of darkness enshrouded the room. The quarter gas meter had left us in gloom. But after detaching a chair from my feet, I threw back the curtain and looked down the street. The arc light shone bright on our new garbage can, awaiting the call of our new garbage man. And what do my wandering optics devour but a big touring car of 100 horsepower with a businesslike chauffeur so shiny and slick, I knew in a jiffy it must be St. Nick. As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly, he ascended the fire escape, nimble and spry. I drew in my head and was turning around, when in through the air shaft he came with a bound. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. He the air of a man who is satisfied, very. A fragrant perfecto he held in his teeth, while its smoke circled his $10 wreath. He had a broad face and a well-nourished belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, but a shrewd-looking guy, and there gleamed through his goggles a keen little eye. He spoke not a word, but the foxy old elf just walked to the mantel and laid on the shelf a letter, typewritten in businesslike style. Then down the dumb waiter he sped with a smile. He jumped in his car, and with 3 loud honk-honks, he whizzed round the corner and off toward the Bronx. I opened the letter, the message I read, and then I crawled silently back into bed, for here's what I saw with dismay and disgust. Retired from business, sold out to the trust. The second poem I'd like to share with you is called The Yuletide Humor of Yesteryear by Bert Lester Taylor. It tells of a poor writer for a newspaper who had been assigned by his editor to find something new for the Christmas page this year, and he really can't do that. This is from around the same era, 1907, 1908. The poet sat in his padded chair and chewed his pencil and mussed his hair. A will-o'-the-wisp idea he'd chased till his intellect was reduced to paste. The thing that he sought was not in his mind, and he cussed himself in a lyric rage that ever he'd promised his editor a new idea for the Christmas page. Weak and weary, the versifier reached a hand for his favorite briar, and while he smoked till the air was blue, there threaded through the pipe smoke in review a train of shadows, a motley crew, to use a figure that's neat and new. They drifted by as the drifting snow, the Christmas jokes of long ago, or as the leaves of autumn sad and sere, the whiskered wheezes of yesteryear. The homely maiden without a beau, simpering under the mistletoe. Christmas is come and Christmas is go, but still it's a scream, that old tableau. And we laugh, ho ho, and we sigh, hey ho, the maiden under the mistletoe. Now comes tripping through the pipe smoke drift a lady buying a Christmas gift, a box of cigars she gives her spouse that would drive a dachshund from the house. And we laugh, tee-hee, and gurgle with glee, seeing him light that first fusee. Next in line of the shadowy crew, the dear old gentleman Dickens drew, the typical topical tight old screw that never a kindness thinks to do, till the Christmas spirit warms his breast like a mustard plaster on the chest, and he blows himself with a right good will, and he scatters his pelf around until we weep, boo-hoo, for we always do, at the reformation of that old screw. Ah, here is the amateur Santa Claus, who has never failed to earn applause. He sticks in the flue of the chimney piece, and his cotton whiskers burn like grease. And who is this that is loaded down with Christmas bundles from Shopping Town? Who could it be but that luckless wight, the mirth-provoking suburbanite, who keeps us smiling through the year and adds a howl to our Christmas cheer? For when he arrives at Sandy Plain, his kiddies are there to meet the train, and back of the freight car father waits with the rocking horse and a pair of skates, till the kids are gone and the coast is clear, and we crow, oh dear, like Chanticleer, at the Yuletide humor of yesteryear. The toys that are smashed before the dark, the trumpet, the drum, and the Noah's Ark, the farmer's daughter who runs away, returning for dinner on Christmas Day, the carolers warbling in the sleet, who bleat in the street and freeze their feet, the Christmas bells and the Christmas bills, the Christmas feast and its train of ills, who shall count them, the japes that hang in the pipe smoke haze that wreaths, and bang! Firecrackers popped in the street below, and the poet awoke from his dream of snow, of puddings and Yule logs blazing high, to find the month was still July, when reckless poets their word engaged to find new stuff for the Christmas page. His pipe was out, and his wit as well, and he yawned as he heard the midnight bells. A new idea, he scoffed, by jing, as their lady says, there ain't no such a thing.
Hello, Petersburg.
Hello.
Welcome and Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for inviting us to join you today. I'm Nicole.
I'm Alec.
We're the McMurrans, and it's our pleasure to sing for you a song that we've sung for many of you for a few years now. It's called Maybe This Christmas by Rex Sexsmith, and this year it seems to hold a little bit more meaning maybe than it has in years past. Maybe this Christmas will mean something more. Maybe this year love will appear deeper than ever before. And maybe forgiveness will ask us to call someone we loved, someone we lost, for reasons we can't quite recall. Oh, maybe this Christmas, maybe there'll be an will shine once more. And maybe this Christmas will find us at last in heavenly peace, grateful at least for love we've been shown in the past. Oh, maybe this Christmas. Oh, maybe this Christmas.
Hi, I'm Sue Paulson, and I have to say, I had the extreme pleasure of meeting Justine Grunzeth about 25 years ago. Justine grew up in Petersburg, and it was in the 1930s and 40s that she was just around the corner from the Clausen Museum. Her father was Chris Grunzeth, and he was the blacksmith. Justine was an older lady at the time I met her, and she had just finished writing a short memoir of her life as a child in Petersburg, and she wanted me to have one, and she wanted me to share it. So this is a great chance for me to do so. So Justine advised that we should all be writing a bit of a memoir about some period of our life, and you never know who's going to love to read that 100 years later. Chris Grunzeth and his family lived on Excel, right across from where the medical center clinic is now. Their house was on the spot where Tana Parker's The Garden is located. In the white building next to the garden was the Grunzeth blacksmith shop. Chris made gaff hooks for the fleet. His daughter Justine grew up there in the neighborhood in the 1930s and 40s, and when she was older, wrote a memoir of life in Petersburg at that time. And here is an excerpt from that memoir. Petersburg in the good old days, as remembered by an ex-kid. Sliding down Petersburg's hills in the 1930s and 40s was something we kids really looked forward to each winter. The streets that ran alongside our house on E Street, across the back of the old hospital on the corner, was a popular sliding place. It had just the right pitch for a great ride, and we could stop easily before winding up on Main Street. For a more daring, high-speed ride, however, it only required a few buckets of water poured down the Trading Union Hill, at that time a steep, narrow board walkway for foot traffic connecting D Street with Main Street. It ran parallel with the old Trading Union store. Ice appeared in a matter of minutes, and we clambered aboard sleds, garbage can lids, and into cardboard boxes, and we were off because we knew no fear. This was a wild ride for sure, as down that icy hill we flew, sometimes sailing off into the frozen swamp, or occasionally riding it out to the bottom, scooting right across Main Street. When the call came, "Come home, it's getting late," we trudged in and hung our heavy, woolen, soggy outer garments by the kitchen stove to dry. Many kitchens had fan-shaped wooden racks on the wall next to the stove, as we had oil or wood stoves. I remember the odor of damp, steaming woolen mittens, caps, and jackets permeating the house. There was an old water tank on the hill behind the town, and one winter it leaked, flooding the area, and we went up there to slide, but normally it was fun to ski there, and it was close to home. When we heard wolves howling in the nearby woods, it was time to go. Our streets in those days, as I fondly recall, were constructed with heavy wooden planks, and how nice and clean they were. They made a perfect playground for us in the summer, as well as sliding grounds in the winter. They provided us with a place to chalk our hopscotch circles, to roller skate, bike ride, or ride in wagons. Sometimes a raised plank could stub our toes. Sometimes we had skinned knees, and we hated it when our nickels went down those darned cracks. But with little automobile traffic and only an occasional delivery truck passing by or the doctor, the streets were wonderful gathering places. We played long into the summer nights. Red light, green light, hide and seek, plenty of baseball. I remember the glorious feeling of the first warm days when the snow and ice had melted away and we could see the plank streets once again. Some of our happiest days were spent at Sandy Beach. It was a lovely spot with many families having cabins there. Days were spent poking around the beach, fishing with woodworms for bait. Sandy was the setting for many a midsummer St. Hans celebration. It was lots of fun with a large bonfire, good food, accordion music. I remember seeing muddy footprints all over the beach and the Sandy Beach boardwalk the next day, left by those who had trouble walking straight. In summer, the biggest event for young and old was the 4th of July. Mom always had a big spread on the dining room table to anyone who might wish to come up for lunch. I remember the earliest 4th celebrations. There was a gazebo located where the bank is now. Speeches were made there, and it was decorated with red, white, and blue bunting. Later on, there were lovely fireworks display over the water. Near our house, on the corner, was a small shed-like structure which contained the fire equipment. When the alarm sounded, the crew ran to the nearest of one of those buildings and pulled out a 2-wheeled affair with a hose wrapped around a spool in the center. They ran with this to the fire. Once there was a brush fire at Sandy Beach, but the biggest fire was when the public dock burned. That was a spectacular fire with some of the boats burning as well. There used to be 2 bazaars every fall at the Sons of Norway Hall. The Ladies' Aid from the Lutheran Church had the first one, followed by the Daughters of Norway. We enjoyed the fish pond, and one time I won a set of depression glass waffle plates. Waffles were a big thing. One Sunday morning I got up early, got dressed and headed out, my folks still sleeping. I went around the corner to the Wanbergs, and they were sitting down to a waffle breakfast. I was invited to join them. Then I went across the street to the Stenslids, who asked me to have waffles with them. Leaving their house, I headed up to Tommy Thompson's house where they were just serving waffles. Finally, I went home, where Mother was surprised I could eat only 1/4 of a waffle. One of our favorite pastimes was watching the passenger ships dock. We ogled the tourists, who ogled us back and asked questions such as, "Is the ground frozen?" We giggled when they walked around carrying bouquets of skunk cabbage. Some of the ships belonging to the Alaska Steamship Company were the Alaska, Northwester, Denali, Baranof, and Aleutian. Northland Transportation Company had Norco, Northland, and North Sea. I was aboard the North Sea going to Seattle in 1943 when a mutual acquaintance introduced me to Mervyn Clover, and we were married 1 year from that date. At Christmas time, the ships had Santa Claus aboard to greet the Alaskan children at every port and give them bags of apples, oranges, and candy. There were 2 theaters in town then, the Coliseum and the Variety. When I started school, there was no kindergarten. My first grade teacher was Miss Gertie Ottness. Halloween brought us all out, but as I see present-day Halloweeners, I don't feel we behaved too badly. I think mostly we knocked on doors and ran or pulled up carrots. Then we hid under the streets while the homeowner stood over us for a while. He knew we were there. Those plank streets were good for many things. Christmas, the most beautiful of seasons, is a cherished memory. Dad always found a perfect spruce tree, and the decorations had to be just so. I remember the candles on the tree. Such excitement at seeing them lit and how lovely they looked. When I was small, Santa Claus showed up at the Sons of Norway and at home. Mom baked and cooked for days, and the table was loaded with goodies, with emphasis on Norwegian dishes. It was lutefisk and rammegrøt without fail on Christmas Eve. Years later, cousins from Norway came to visit, and they asked, "Do you like lutefisk?" I said, "We always had it on Christmas Eve. Do you like it?" And they said, "No." I hurried through that so I could open my gifts. Later on, it was the custom to tuck the kids into bed, and then the Yule bucking began. Sometimes it seems like everyone in town was in our house, and Mom and Dad were busy in the kitchen piling up trays of refreshments. And so it was, growing up in Petersburg. It is good to look back in memory to those times and remember those wonderful people and our terrific heritage. It truly prepared us for life. Justine Grunthus Morel.